Education Committee of the Southern Workers Assembly. Please welcome James Pope.
Greetings, everyone. I didn't realize I was going to be up front, but sorry about that. So, welcome as part of African World Project Collective, and also again, co-conspirator. I'm not sure if you probably heard my voice, probably the first time seeing my face, because usually I'm not at most of these events, because we is the public face of African World Project, but we engage in a number of things around the DC area. So not to belabor or take too much more time, I wanted to get us to kind of prime us, because I was going to have a conversation. I'm going to bring up Jessica and Niles if they are ready. You can come right up, and I can and I'll introduce Jessica. Oh, she'll be back. Okay, cool. But as you kind of, as we have this conversation, I want you to think about the film that you just saw sonically. The idea of the clanging of the hammers on the minerals. I want you to think about it scientifically, like the 10 minerals in the stones that is getting out. And also humanistically, the artisanal, the miners themselves, right? Points of production, right, as a labor organizer to those things. As we sit in occupied DC on the precipice of the coming occupations in the other cities that are coming pretty soon to your city near you, I want us to think about what does Congo, Sudan, Palestine, and the other spots that are happening relate to what you just saw with Congo, and also where we sit here in occupied DC, yet again, right? So let me introduce, I'm sorry, let me pull my phone here. I usually don't know my parents, that's a problem. So I just wanted to introduce Niles. Niles is a human rights advocate and founder of Action for Congo. Action for Congo, which is one of the largest networks of US-based advocates for the Democratic Republic of Congo. Niles also serves as the federal policy manager for African Communities Together Act, where he has successfully led numerous advocacy campaigns, including those for temporary protected status for DRC, Mali, South Sudan, Ethiopia, and Sudan. Jessica, who's just joined us, maybe Jessica, is founder of African Diaspora Connection and a seasoned public administration and development practitioner. Over the past decade, she has managed programs in more than 20 African and Middle Eastern and North African MENA countries, providing capacity building support to local organizations. She was born and raised in the Democratic Republic of Congo during the First and Second Congo Wars. And what I want to do now is turn it over to them as they're going to give a presentation. And as you're queuing up your questions, thinking about the film, and queuing up questions, we want to make sure that we engage in a conversation once they are done. So I will turn it over to, is there a preference? Ladies first, right? Jessica.
Hello, everyone. So I think it's important before we have any of these discussions about exploited nations to have context of how did we get here. And so many of us, unfortunately, have been taught that our stories started with, slavery and colonization, and that is not the case. So I'm going to do a brief presentation on my phone. So I'm going to be using some notes of why Congo matters, why we are here, and where we were before and how we got here. So really quickly, so as we saw in the video, why Congo matters. It is the largest cobalt producer. It produces over 70% of the world's cobalt, a crucial component in batteries for smartphones, laptops, and electric vehicles. Congo is rich in minerals. It's one of the most resource-rich countries on earth, with vast reserves of gold, diamonds, copper, tin, and coltan. Again, all of these used for all of our electronic devices. And again, as they mentioned in this incredible film, Congo not only has minerals that fuels the world, but is also the second largest rainforest. So environmentally, it really is the essential place for the world. It's home to the Congo Basin, the second largest rainforest in the world, which plays a vital role in regulating global climate and housing immense biodiversity. The hydropower potential is also immense. DRC's Inga Dam has the potential to generate enough hydroelectric power to supply electricity to most of Africa. In addition to that, we have incredible cultural diversity. We have over 200 ethnic groups, as you saw a few of them in there in the film, and over 240 languages spoken, making it one of the most culturally diverse countries in the world. Now, quick history. Before we were colonized, Congo, again, it's always been a strategic location, making it a target for powerful nations since back to the Portuguese times. So Portuguese arrived in 1480, encountering the Congo and Luba empires. The Luba empires thrived through trade of iron, ivory, copper, and then the Congo kingdom entered the global economy through, unfortunately, the slave trade, leading to a decline by the 19th century. So I can keep going on, but I wanted to provide just a quick background. And unfortunately, when we fast forward to the 1960s, that's when we had our independence. We were colonized by the Belgians after the Portuguese. And then we had our first Prime Minister, Lumumba, assassinated. And then we have, when these Western powers start interfering with US, British-backed Rwanda and Uganda leading the invasion of Congo, initiating the First Congo War in 1996. So I could keep going, it's gonna take a while, but I just wanted to at least lay the context of how we got here. And
Thank you for that.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for your interest in the DRC. I'll start with the story. My name is Nels Kimoni. I was born in Bukavu, a town in eastern DRC. And when I was born, shortly after that, the first Congo War that my colleague Jessica was referring to started. And when I was in elementary school, the war continued. And at that time, for those of you who have studied the Congo War, and that first Congo War, the rebel groups were recruiting soldiers in schools, were recruiting essentially child soldiers. And at that time in Bukavu, I was in elementary school, and I remember one day I was in my classroom. A rebel chief commander came to our classroom and selected young boys, my classmates, so that he can take them, and those young boys would become child soldiers. I don't know why he didn't pick me. My dad usually tells me because I was very tiny, maybe not fit for the military, but he didn't pick me, and that's the reason why I'm here today. So this war is real, and what you see in the documentary is the reality of the ground. And the first Congo War started with, and I'll just pick up from where my colleague Jessica left, started with a direct attack from one of our neighboring countries, Rwanda, on the DRC. And that war was, in some way facilitated by the Congolese people. So the Congolese people worked with Rwanda to overthrow a authoritarian regime in the DRC. Actually, that's a common practice. You've seen that in history, where even here in the US, the French had to help the American to reach freedom, independence. And that's the same thing that happened when the Congolese seeking the assistance of our neighboring country, Rwanda, to overcome authoritarianism, dictatorship. And in 1997, there was a coup, and that led to a new regime. And after that, the new president that took over, the old president, previous president, Mobutu, was overthrown. The new president, Laurent Kabila, asked our neighbors to go back, right? Just like how it happened here in the US, right? We don't have French people governing in the US. After they helped the American people, it was time for them to go back. However, the difference here is that our neighbors don't want to go back. They never want to go back. On August 2nd, 1998, that marked the beginning of the Second Congo War. And what's unique about that second Congo War, the Second Congo War, and that's different from the First Congo War. Remember what I said, the First Congo War was a direct attack. As a matter of fact, we had in Congo a foreign affairs minister who was a random foreign affairs minister. Just imagine in the US, you have not a naturalized citizen, but a pure French citizen as the Secretary of State in the US. That happened in Congo in 1997. And yeah. Well, we can, I don't know, the situation now is murky, it's complex, but that happened in Congo. And 1998, the new president asked our neighbors to go back, and they refused to go back. And then they changed strategy. Now, the new strategy is continuing the war through proxy groups. And our neighbors have used, since 1998, proxy groups to continue that war of aggression and direct their attack on the DRC. And multiple groups. Today we have the F-23 group, which I'm sure you've seen in the news. But in the past, they've used RCD, they've used CNDP, they've used multiple groups. And now we're just asking them to go back. And how does that relate to the US, right? All we ask, if we know that the US is a country that claims to uphold international law, right? So it's a country that upholds human rights. And all we're asking is that if you have one neighboring country pursuing a war of aggression against another one, if you uphold international law, you should not fund that neighboring country. You should not fund that operation. Now, it's been proven that that neighboring country uses funding that they get from the US to pursue that war of aggression against the DRC. Aggression now is an international crime, right? And this is, you don't have to be a lawyer, this is logic. So all we're asking is that if you truly uphold international law, you should not encourage that neighboring country pursuing a war of aggression against innocent people. Now, innocent people, you see that some of them on this documentary, these people have no idea about, the origins, the ins and outs, the implications of the war. They have no idea. So now we're asking the US government to stop funding that operation, that violation of international law. And finally, we are also asked the Congolese people, as you can see in this documentary, they are full of energy. I almost go to back home every year. My grandma is about 82, 83 years old. But she wants to go to the farm. And you can see the farming there back home. It's pretty tough. They don't have all the machines that people in the Western world would use, right? So people are full of energy. You see the young people, they are full of energy. And so what we're asking, especially with the minerals bill, which I'm sure you have heard about in the news between the US and the DRC, is just to give these people a chance. Give them a chance. They're not asking for, and as a matter of fact, in Congo, when you go there and when you see the documentary, people are going through difficult situations, but they're not asking for much. They're just asking for opportunities. Now, this deal should give opportunities to these local people. That's all we're asking for. Like the group that I founded, Action for Congo, a couple of weeks ago, we had uh, uh, people on the ground, because we work with victims, share some testimonies about, you know, the upcoming, the potential minerals deal. And then they're telling us that the investors, the mining investors in the DRC, they exploit and they make so much money, but they don't build anything in those areas where they are conducting those operations. As a matter of fact, they're saying that the Belgians who left some 60 years ago have built so much infrastructure than the people that are in the DRC now exploiting natural resources, minerals, that they've built. So the Congolese people are asking for a chance, opportunities. And then our advocacy now, as it relates to these minerals, this upcoming minerals bill, and then I think that's the theme for the event today, is it peace or profit? All we are asking is that this bill should benefit the local people, should benefit the Congolese people. What we have seen, the trend that we have seen in the past 10 or 20 years, you have all these big contracts. It has happened with the Chinese, it has happened with other countries where they come to the DRC, they do the extraction, they take out resources, and then they don't give any opportunities to the Congolese people. They don't build schools, they don't build hospitals, they don't build anything, they don't even build roads that will allow them to actually take those resources, export them. So the Congolese people are asking for a chance for opportunities. When you think about that in the American context, right? Like, these are hardworking people. They're not asking for public assistance. They're not asking for public benefit. Even from the government, they're not asking for public benefit. All they're asking is opportunities. Give us jobs, and we can make money. We can support our families. That's what they're asking for, and our advocacy has focused on that. I'll stop there, and we'll be happy to continue the discussion.
Thank you. Before we begin, and we want, thank you for providing, just a, kind of like an overview. I wanted to see if Maurice Carney of Friends of the Congo come in and just kind of piece everything to contextualize just a little bit more. But again, we want to bring you into the conversation, but please understand we have a limited amount of time, so make sure that your questions are very succinct and clear, or your comments are very clear. But Maurice Carney, I just wanted to bring up really quick to contextualize.
Thank you, James. And I know a number of people I introduced the film, and there was a media transition without some follow-up. So there are a few requests that I provided some context as Friends of the Congo is one of the producers, along with the Basanja Coalition. For those of you who may not have been here, the answer what I shared was that the Congo is often presented as if there's no agency on the part of Congolese themselves, right? So part of the effort of the film is to demonstrate or share that there is agency at the bottom. And another element of it is those who are involved in the Basanja Coalition are on a path, a decolonial path, right? And that's what's the term that's often used outside of Africa. However, if you consult young scholars today, they ensconce that path in the principle of agro-liberation, right? Drawing up on Amilcar Cabral, where at the center of African liberation, or Congolese liberation, is returning to the source. You saw in the film where they talk about mining, and how at the end the elder said, well, we've been mining for thousands of years, right? And then he went on to say, the difference between the mining, the ancestral mining, what we've done, what we're doing, is that today it's exploitative. The conspicuous consumption that we see in the Western world drives the exploitation to the point where the lead digger is saying that we're living like slaves, right? Because we're being exploited. They come, the foreigners come in, and they extract. The traditional way we say, well, there are so much minerals that based on what the minerals were used for, iron making, for example, you didn't have to dig more than 30 meters. Right? So that's one of the aspects of the film that the filmmaker is trying to convey, that there, even in the mining sector, there is a traditional practices. And we as the Basanja Coalition, and producing this knowledge, we're sharing with you a path that is not just grounded in resistance, but is grounded in liberation. And liberation means reclaiming our stories, reclaiming our land, reclaiming our resources, reclaiming our wealth, reclaiming our affairs, right? For ultimate sovereignty. Absolutely correct, there needs to be resistance, and that's what we're doing on the outside, putting pressure on the Trump administration, or any administration really, because from whether it's Republicans or Democrats, Congo has fared the same. So, in their march, right, for controlling what economists say is $24 trillion worth of natural wealth. We're not talking about the agricultural wealth, where Congo has agricultural capacity to feed 2 billion people. We're not talking about the energy wealth, where Congo has the hydro capacity to provide energy for the entire African continent. We're just talking about in the mineral wealth, 24 million. Right? So the message that the indigenous leaders are sending to us through these films, the appeal that they're making, is that for us to join them as they are on a march towards sovereignty, controlling that wealth, controlling those resources, not only for the benefit of the Congolese people, but for the benefit of Africa overall. And in essence, continuing the mission that Lumumba was assassinated by the CIA for. Right? Remember, Larry Devlin, he said in his book, Chief of Station Congo, he said we had to overthrow Mikuba, right? This African nationalist, this Pan-Africanist. We had to overthrow him, because if we didn't overthrow Lumumba, not only would we have lost the Congo, we would have lost all of Africa. Chief of Station Congo, he's coming directly from the mouth of the Chief of Station of the CIA. So what we're talking about here is not just the Congolese pursuit for liberation or sovereignty, but it's an African pursuit. So now, if Donald Trump and his colleagues, Mr. Gentry Beach, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Michael Bloomberg, who are all lined up to get access to these minerals, if they capture the heart of the African continent, then they would have what? Done what? Fulfilled Lawrence Devlin's mission. So they're actually continuing Devlin's mission. That we can't let go of the Congo, we in the West. Because if we let go of the Congo, if we let Congolese control Congo, if we let Africans control Congo, then we would lose all of Africa. So that's the essence of the film in terms of the folks, those women who are saying that we want to control it, we want to be the beneficiaries. So just wanted to share that context of the film, but not only the context of the film, the context of the Basanjo Coalition, in that the pursuit is one of sovereignty, grounded in Cabral's admiral liberation. So I'll leave it at that and just ask for the question.
So, are there any questions, any comments, anything about the film? We have one question, two questions. We go 1, 2, oh my goodness, 3, 4. All right, 1, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I just want to pose one question, respond obviously as you can, but there was a so-called deal, minerals deal, right? Could contextualize that and the dangers of that in the context of, it's mineral deal, Trump and all these other folks. But also, Jessica, you talk about the African diaspora. What is the role of the African diaspora? And I say it's the African diaspora because the Congo is an African world problem. It's not just simply, separate from the other issues. So answer those questions briefly, and then we'll go to the 1, 2, 3. Remember your number?
2.
1, 2, 3, 4. We'll go right there, and we'll get some others. Okay, go. The deal, the so-called minimum deal, and then we'll talk about the diaspora.
So I think it started earlier this year. So it was announced that the DRC government was pursuing a deal with the Trump administration. We don't know much about the deal, but all we know is that the DRC government would want to get military or some assistance from the U.S. government in dealing with the rebellion, the armed conflict within the country, the eastern part of the country. And on this end, with the Trump administration, we have actually seen that this administration is interested in pursuing deals. They started with Ukraine, and then now they also announced that they're interested in pursuing a deal with the DRC. I want to note here that, as Maurice indicated, that when you look at the challenges that the world faces now, and when you look at the potential that the DRC has, I think one can conclude that the DRC has some solutions, or a lot of solutions, to the challenges that the world is facing, not Africa, not Congo itself, not Africa, but the world, right? Starting with global warming or climate change. My colleague Jessica mentioned that the DRC has the second largest tropical rainforests. So that by itself addresses the global warming climate change challenge, right? Today, here in the US, the green energy transition, the Congo has the potential resources to address that challenge, to help pursue the green energy transition. So, and we can go, the list is long. We can go on and on with all the agriculture. My colleague Maurice mentioned that the agriculture potential in the DRC can feed over 2 billion people. So when you look at the situation, when you look at the DRC is a country that provides solution not to the challenges of Africa, but to the challenges in the province of Congo. I would like us to keep that in mind as we continue this discussion. It's important to put Congo in that context. But as it relates to the minerals deal, all we're asking is for opportunities for the local people. As I said, as I mentioned, there's so much energy, so much potential, human potential, and this deal should benefit the Congolese people. All the big names that Maurice mentioned, we know how they treat people here in this country, right? And we don't want that to happen in Congo.
So I'm going to speak to the role of the diaspora. So again, none of this should be surprising, right, for these mineral deals, because relying on institutions and powers that prioritize their own hegemonic interests and have a history of causing instability in these communities, expecting them to prioritize your development interests to whatever they want to say, right? They're going to say whatever they're going to say in order to get at least the elites to agree to these quote unquote deals, these neo-colonial deals, right? So I don't think it's realistic, it's not sustainable, and it hasn't been sustainable as we've seen throughout history. And so if we even just look at aid, so my background is humanitarian aid, development, USAID, USDA, even in the contract, they say, oh, it sounds great, right? $25 million, we're gonna do a development project in Congo, in Dhaka. Well, in the contracts, it says it is to advance the interest of the US, the interest of whatever country is implementing these development projects. So unfortunately, because of these neocolonial powers, our education systems in our exploited nations have suffered. So people are, as Neil mentioned, clueless a lot of the times, right? And then you have the elites at the top. I have family in the government. For decades, since the Mobutu era, I understand how they operate. They keep information. They collaborate with these powers in order to keep the wealth for themselves while the people suffer. There's a short-sighted mentality on the continent, unfortunately, and that's why the role of the diaspora is so critical. I mean, if you even look at aid, in 2024, the US allocated $12.7 billion in foreign assistance to Africa, while the diaspora remittances, so this is the money that the African diaspora sends back home, reached a record of $56 billion. That's more than 4 times that amount, right? So again, a lot of these countries were taught, oh, we need Western aid, but in the meantime, we have the power, we have the money, we have the intellectual capacity to support the development of the continent. A lot of us are well educated and do really well here, so we understand the systems. And that's why, again, we are so powerful in supporting and connecting. But unfortunately, a lot of us come here, and understandably, there's a lot of trauma. I lived through the First and Second Congo Wars. There's unspeakable things that I've seen, and a lot of us choose to forget and move on and just forget it. But what does that do, right? That continues to enable this cycle of exploitation, and then we complain, and then we don't do anything about it. And again, just to go back with the numbers, $41 billion every year continues to leave at the African continent due to neocolonial practices, exploitative trade agreements, and corruption by multinational corporations and government elites. These figures, again, highlight the limitation of foreign aid and the urgent need to prioritize self-sustaining, locally driven development. And that's why events like this are so important, to educate people of how they can get involved. My colleague here started Action for Congo to start that process as well on the governmental level, because again, a lot of these decisions are being made by people who don't look like us, who are not from our countries, who main priority is to exploit. So therefore, us having to sit at the table, whether it's talking to our local representatives, engaging the community, to at least know what's going on. That way, we know that we don't have the weapons, we don't have, all of these things that we're scared of, but we don't need that. We have our voice, we have engagement, we have a way of mobilizing. We are more powerful than they think that we are. It's only a small group of them, and yet we allow them to continue to exploit us. And I always say oppression requires consent. And at a certain point, with all the information that we have here, we're choosing, and I wanna say from the African perspective, a lot of us are fighting, but the majority of us are choosing to accept this oppression. So we are more powerful than we think that we are. And it starts with engagement, it starts with education, it starts with collaboration, and it starts with just community building.
our number one.
Thank you so much, Daniel Mastaki. Good evening, everyone. I'm Daniel Mastaki from Congo, from Bukavu as well as my colleague. And I have both family in Bukavu and Goma, and I live there. And here in the US since 10 weeks, and I will be back in that region at the end of this month. So all of that we are speaking of, I'm living those situations. And right now we are in war. And that's why it's about those resources, natural resources, minerals. And it's very, very complicated for our people. About our discussion, I think maybe a study must confirm it, but every family in east of Congo has lost one member. So it is really, really a difficult situation. Yeah, to be in power in Congo, some of politicians use war, kill people to get power. That is true reality. In our government right now, maybe there are people who were rebels yesterday, and right now they are in power. And as we have M23, which have Bukavu and Goma, they are killing people. People are dying every day. So I think as we are here, we have to raise our voice for Congo. Yeah. The peace agreement, about the peace agreement, this deal of Trump administration, Rwanda and DRC, there are no peace without justice. No peace without justice. That is the first step. Because we have people who are killing innocent people, rebels who are killing innocent people. There can be any justice or any peace without justice. Beyond opportunities, we need justice. There must be an international tribunal of justice for DRC. Yeah. For the film we watch, I think minerals should be processed locally to get more opportunities in DRC. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we are running short on time. So we want to thank you for that comment. We're going to take the two questions, and unfortunately, we'll probably have to convene at another point. And I also point you to Africa Now and Africa World Now Project, who have done many different programs on this, including the peace deal. You can just Google it and find it.
Good evening, and thank you for bringing the awareness. I just need clarity on the part about, I know you mentioned about there's so many minerals and that the world wants to extract them, but the lady in the film mentioned that only it seems as though China is the one that, and so she would like more, like more competitive people so they can, negotiate whatever price that they needed, or, so it could be fair as opposed to China. So can you just elaborate if there's so many minerals in there and there's so much needed in the world, but China's the only one buying? I just need clarity on that. Thanks.
Got that? I'm so sorry.
You want me to ask it?
Yes, please.
Okay, my question is, what can we do in a concrete way with respect to Palestine, with respect to South Africa? Dave and myself, in Philadelphia, we were pressuring the First Pennsylvania Bank in the 70s to get out of South Africa. What concrete things can we do here that will aid the Congo in that capturing its own wealth and not being dispersed to the international imperialists?
Maurice Connie's going to give us a call to action, direct names right now, but if you want to respond to that first question and.
Yes, as far as the Chinese, in 2010, 2011, the Congolese government signed a big contract with the Chinese people. And that contract gives the Chinese people, the Chinese investors, essentially a lot of power extraction power, in the DRC. And then this new government, Congolese government, is trying to bring new investors. So the American, at some point, I'm not a minerals or mining policy expert, but at some point, the European, the American were involved, but in recent years, the Chinese have dominated that industry in Congo.
And just to add, so from a development perspective, a lot of the programs that I've managed were very much democracy and governance, right? And that was something that the African governments really did not, they were repulsed by, right? And meanwhile, for the Chinese, they give money with no strings attached, right? So that is obviously more appealing, right? When you have a Hippocratic, more the US is operating from a hypocrisy, right? Having these democracy and governance project, rule of law, all of those things, and then they're doing what they're doing. Meanwhile, the Chinese, they're all over Africa, right? And they've been able, unfortunately, to have their own communities. When I lived there, I remember being a child trying to play with our neighbor who was Chinese, and the parents we call it a bangu, which is like this big wall around your house to protect. The children literally had to climb to try to play with us, and the parents did not want to engage with the local community, right? So it's they're very much there just to extract. But again, when you're paying that much money to the local government, to elite governments, and you don't have any strings attached, of course you're going to be able to get away with whatever you want, right? So that's just a little context. And we also have our mineral law expert, Namwezi, back there. So she's Congolese as well. So if you want to answer any questions, please.
I still have some but I don't actually have time. I can also say it's regarding the mineral law.
Yeah, she's the expert.
I would love to. But we do have.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take her, we'll go over.
Oh, we don't go over that. Yeah, everybody can say something.
Who has a mic? I'll start. Hi everyone, I'm Namwezi Nicole Batumike. I work at the Family Foundation, which is based in Bukavu. We also have an office here in Washington, DC. It's Dr. Mukwege, Dr. Denise Mukwege. Oh.
Stand up.
Thank you. I'm not gonna. Dr. Denise Mukwege's foundation and hospital. So regarding the mineral deal, I just wanted to also say that it's part, obviously, it has been incorporated in the peace deal in a way. So there is a section 6 in the peace deal that is about the regional economic integration framework. So now Congo and Rwanda are working on a draft. And if you look at the tenets that they shared on August 1st, you can find it on the US government's website. There is already some detail about each section and what they are going to be focusing on. There are two things that I think everyone should be looking out for, which are tax harmonization and also value addition. Actually, they did not call it that way. They called it transformation, processing and transformation. This is mostly going to happen in Rwanda. That's the plan. That's even what the US government is saying publicly. And what they are saying is that they will support investors to go into Rwanda, to support transformation in Rwanda. If you read an article from the New Times, Rwanda, that's one of the main newspaper in Rwanda that was published recently, they even will say, I'm quoting, that Rwanda or that Congo will benefit from Rwanda's processing plants because they are going to be transforming our minerals and they will exempt taxes for people who are importing minerals from the DRC. This is the narrative that Rwanda is still giving, while on the other side, we were talking about tax harmonization. So we are wondering, what do you mean by tax harmonization now? What do you mean by processing and transformation if it's not about conditioning it so that Congo also gets some of it? So what we need to do, if the US wants to be in that deal, I'm not a US constituent, but you as US constituent can also put pressure for the lawmakers, the policymakers, those companies to make sure that when they invest in Congo, they also absolutely need to invest in value addition and transformation, local transformation, beneficiation. There are laws as well in Congo. We have different articles in our mining code that push for transformation, local transformation, beneficiation, again, local content. We have to observe those things. It's very, again, important to look out for tax harmonization. We need to harmonize our taxes because right now there is an incentive for people to smuggle to Rwanda because it's cheaper to export your minerals from Rwanda than it is from Congo. For example, to export your gold from Congo, you will be paying taxes to at least 11 different bureaus, and it's going to reach 11% and so on. But when you go and export it from Rwanda, it's 0.5%. So this is why we need tax harmonization. But we don't need exemptions. We don't need evasion, tax avoidance. That's exactly, those are the things we need to look out for. Again, those two things. If there is anything that you want to take away from this regarding the mineral deal today, I would say those are the two things. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I was caught off guard. I thought Maurice was doing this. I'll tell you, if I may pitch, okay. Can I also can I just share the practical advice you gave me on how, are you gonna talk about that? Okay, good. Because we do have some practical tips for you on how you can materially not support what's happening in the Congo. So one more pitch for WPFW. This is what Maurice wants me to do. If you enjoyed today's presentation, of course, we had partners here, but WPFW really is for the people. It really is for liberation. We say it all the time. It sounds very cliche, but that is the only thing that we are about, and it's the only thing we've been about since 1977. So again, before you leave the room tonight, you can text a donation by texting WPFWFM to 801801, and any amount is welcome and appreciated. And we thank you for coming out. Oh, we have some on the table. Yeah, grab one of these, give you everything you need to know, the little QR code, but still text tonight before you leave the room. Thank you very much. Here's Maurice Carney.
Thanks, Katia. Not only do we thank WPFW, but certainly Pamela and Andy, Busboys and Poets. One of the, it's really important for us to understand that our struggle is local and global in nature. The Basanja Coalition and other frontline organizations in the Congo, and we have WPFW, Busboys and Poets, and so many other local institutions here that support the global efforts. And look out for folks who are here. I wanted to say, I want to share with you, I have a, make sure you get one of these before speaking of the local, the Free DC people. We cannot overlook the assault that this city is under right now, where each and every one of us is sitting. So the Free DC folks like Harriet's Wildest Dreams, they put together information packages for all of us so that we know our rights. Because we know at any moment we can be stopped on the street and whisked off. So we have the packets there for you. The struggle is both local and global in nature. And that being said, what can we do locally, right? In early June, we brought or worked with a number of organizations to bring 4 remarkable Congolese women leaders from the front lines. And they came to Washington through an incredible journey, right? And they came for a particular purpose. That is, discussions were being held, deals were being signed, arrangements were being made without their participation. So they reached out to us and said, the fate of the Congo is being decided in Washington, D.C., right there at the State Department and the White House. So at the very least, we're going to come and let the officials in Washington know what we think, what we would like for our fellow women and men in the Congo. And they came with very specific prescriptions. One, the young brother there from Mikuba mentioned that the peace deal, the minerals deal, is missing a fundamental element. Even Namwezi, who works with Dr. Daniel Mukwege, wrote a long piece about it, and that's the question of justice. The Congolese people are demanding justice. So, each and every one of you who are here, and you're like, what do Congolese people want? One key thing is justice, right? That means if any deals are happening that do not center justice, then you're not in support of it. And you can reach out to your members of Congress. That's one thing that you can do. We have at Free Congo, if you go to freecongo.org, we have a pre-form letter there that you can sign to contact members of Congress in order to insert your voice. Let them know that you support what the Congolese people are demanding. And one of the key demands is justice. The second demand on the part of the people, the women who came, they said inclusion. We weren't being included in any of this, not from our local government or our federal or national government or the international community. So we want our voices to be heard, our prescriptions to be shared. So they asked for their voices to be amplified. And one of the ways you can amplify their voices, one of the women who came, her name was Justine Masika. She runs an organization called Synergie des Femmes. She's rescued 18,000 women who've been victims of sexual and gender-based violence in the Congo with her organization. And she wrote about it. So amplify their voices. Congolese who've been resisting, they're making films about their resistance, they're writing books about their resistance, and they're laying out prescriptions as to how they can free the Congo and Africa. So we have to know about it, and we have to support them. And Justine Masika's book, Women Resist War, is one way each purchase of this book, it goes directly to her and supports her organization as she continues to rescue more women. So, second concrete recommendation is to support the Congolese voices and the knowledge that they produce. And again, freecongo.org is a platform you can go. We encourage you to go there, sign up, so you can be in our database. If you haven't signed up here, make sure you sign up to be a part of it, be a part of our database. Another way is we have Congo Week coming up, the third week of each October. It was read on the screen earlier at congoweek.org. We're going to be having events here in DC. We encourage you to come out and support those events. We're going to be having events really throughout the US and other parts of the world. So on congoweek.org, you can come out and support those events. But ultimately what we're doing is building a global constituency for change in the Congo, to support those on the front lines, Justine Masika's and other members of the Bassanja Coalition, in order for them to know that they're not alone and that they have support in the global community. Now, we have in your signing up with us, we are able to be in communication with you when there are times to put pressure. So for example, on this minerals deal, it's a deal, the women, when they came, they said, well, we're not included, our voices are not heard. The United States has laws on its books that deal with prior and informed consent in local communities that where mining is going to take place. Labor rights, questions of labor rights, questions of human rights, questions of environmental protection. So we're saying to members of Congress, and members of Congress have joined on, that if this deal is going to go through, right, that these elements ought to be a part of it. Whether you agree with the deal or not, at the very least, that's a point of pressure. So if you're signing up, we're able to call on you, to call on your members of Congress to support letters that they're sending to the administration. In addition to that, there are folks in the tech sector, students, labor unions. We would like for you to tap into that network and encourage them to join us in solidarity. We see them standing up with Palestine and Sudan. We'd like for that to happen with the Congo as well. It is happening, but it can be, happen at a much more engaged way. So there are labor unions, climate justice organizations. If you're connected with any of them, please encourage them to join in supporting the movement around the Congo. So those are some concrete things you're doing and you can do. We've had working with attorneys who are bringing suit against major tech companies. Unfortunately, the last suit that was brought was shut down, but they're reconstituting, reorganizing, and there'll be more lawsuits that they're going to bring. So we encourage you to be a part of a range of concrete actions that you can take in order to support folks inside the Congo, and each and every one of you here have it within your means to do that. Starting by signing up, getting involved, taking any of the steps that I shared with you. Again, freecongo.org if you want to support the humanitarian effort in the Congo that's providing water, food, shelter, other means of support for folks who are on the front lines of the conflict. We encourage you to go to freecongo.org and you'll see that banner come up. Just click on that banner and you'll be able to support. Kitty's waiting with me about the consumption pattern. See, so there's been, how can I say, this question of, and I really want to wrap up because I'm going, this question of what you can do with your phone. I know there are folks who are organizing and they're saying, well, they're not going to support the new phones that are coming out. They're purchasing refurbished equipment, phones, and what have you. We encourage you to do that, and do that in the context of, right? In the context of not participating in conspicuous consumption as a part of a larger effort, not to feed the beast, so to speak, right? We all have to make an assessment of our consumption patterns, and if we're engaged in conspicuous consumption, we're not only talking about the Congo, that doesn't support folks in the Congo or folks throughout the global South. So those are some of the other elements that Katia definitely wanted me to mention about what each and every one of you can do. So thank you so much. Pamela, I don't know if you wanted to come up and say a few words. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Leo. Thank you so much. Oh, James. Thank you, James. And Weezer. Thank you so much.